Welcome to the video recap of Chapter 2, Trouble in Phandalin. If you are interested in the whole story, then listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, anywhere you will find our podcast, Adventures of the Sword Coast, where this is just a short video recap of what happened in Chapter 2. It's a 10-minute video about a session that took almost 3 hours. Anyways, let's start. Phandalin. The town consists of 40 or 50 simple log buildings, some built on fieldstone foundations. More old ruins, crumbling stone walls covered in ivy and briars surround the newer houses and shops, showing how this must have been a much larger town in centuries past. Most of the newer buildings are set on the sides of the cart track, which widens into a muddy main street of sorts as it climbs toward a ruined manor house on a hillside at the east side of town. Phandalin's residents are quiet, hard-working folk who came from distant cities to eke out a life amid the harsh wilderness. They are farmers, stonecutters, blacksmiths, traders, prospectors, and children. The town has no walls and no garrison, except for a few guards where necessary, but most of the adults keep weapons within easy reach in case the need for arms should raise. Visitors are welcome here, particularly if they have coin to spend or news to share. The Stonehill Inn, at the center of town, offers modest lodgings and meals. A couple of doors down from the inn, posted outside the townmaster's hall, is a job board for adventurers. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the quaint town of Phandalin, our weary adventurers, Azareah, with her newfound wolf squad, Deimus and Cepheon, together with Sildar, finally arrive at their destination. Exhausted from their long journey and the trials they faced along the way, they welcomed the sight of the bustling town with a sense of relief. With Sildar's guidance, they made their way through the winding streets until they reached the heart of Phandalin, where the Stonehill Inn stood as a beacon of respite amidst the fading night. Its sturdy stone walls and inviting glow promised warmth and shelter for the night ahead. Following Sildar's suggestion, they entered the inn, greeted by the comforting aroma of hard-cooked meals, the cheerful chatter of fellow travelers. Finding solace in the familiar atmosphere, they settled themselves at the table, ready to rest and recuperate after their adored journey. They are greeted by Elsa the barmaid, who takes their orders. Meanwhile, they start discussing what happened, and Sildar properly introduced himself. But he also informs the group of adventurers about the mysterious pact of Phandelver. More than 500 years ago, clans of dwarves and gnomes made an agreement known as the Phandelver's Pact, by which they should share a rich mine in a wondrous cavern known as Wave Echo Cave. In addition to its mineral wealth, the mine contained great magical power. Human spellcasters allied themselves with the dwarves and gnomes to channel and bind that energy into a great forge, which is called the Forge of Spells, where magic items could be crafted. Times were good. The nearby human town of Phandalin prospered as well. But then disaster struck when orcs swept through the north and laid waste to all in their path. A powerful force of orcs, reinforced by evil mercenary wizards, attacked Wave Echo Cave to seize its riches and magic treasures. Human wizards fought alongside their dwarf and gnome allies to defend the Forge of Spells, and the ensuing spell battle destroyed much of the cavern. Few survived the cave-ins and tremors. The location of Wave Echo Cave was lost. He then informs the group that Gundren would have a map that would eventually lead them to the Wave Echo Cave, and asked if they saw the map of Gundren in the Kragma hideout. Then Sildar informs them about his own reasons why he left for Phandalin. He's part of a Lord's Alliance in Neverwinter. His friends from the Alliance, Jarno Albrecht, has gone missing. The last they heard from him was when he left for Phandalin to restore order here in town. Sildar is going to look for him and wants the group also to keep their eyes open for Jarno Albrecht. Since Cepheon was the one who killed the Bugbear, was the leader of the hideout, everybody looked at him. Cepheon denies to have heard anything about any map or Gundren from the Bugbear. And so, they spend their evening in the inn until Sildar heads to bed in the inn. Cepheon also decides to rent a room. Talks to the owner of the inn, Toblin, and Toblin Stonehill lives here together with his wife and son named Pip. Toblin complains to Cepheon that business is bad due to some red brands that are tormenting the town. But Cepheon does not respond to this. And after getting his room, he invites Azareah and Deimus because he does have more information she didn't want to share with Sildar. When they are in the room, Cepheon closes the door, sits down, and informs his fellow travelers that he did spoke with the bugbear. And he tells them that the bugbear informed him that there is a goblin king in Gregma Castle, and that this king ordered him to capture Gundren and Sildar, and send Gundren with all his possessions to the king. He says that Gundren has been taken to Gregma Castle, including this map, and the king had his orders from someone named the Black Spider. This all smells very fishy. The three of them decide to spend more time in Phandalin, trying to figure out if they can get their hands on this map and get to the Wave Echo Cave, and especially its Forge of Spells. They all decide to go to bed and take their rest. Cepheon goes to bed in his room in the inn, and Azareah decides to meditate outside next to her wolf. Under the cover of darkness, as the wolf of Phandalin lay shrouded in quiet slumber, Deimus found himself unable to resist the allure of his old habits, and with stealthy steps he prowled the shadowed streets in search of a house ripe for plunder, his fingers itching for the promise of ill-gotten gains. But as he approached his target, a sense of unease washed over him, and his keen senses picked up the sound of approaching footsteps. With quick thinking, he ducked into the shadows, his heart pounding in his chest, as a group of figures clad in ominous red garments passed by. Pressing himself against the wall, Deimus held his breath, his pulse quickening with each passing moment as the red brands drew closer. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, he realized that he had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than a simple burglary. As the red brands paused to investigate the disturbance, Deimus remained frozen in place, his mind racing with thoughts of escape. Through the darkness, he listened intently as they spoke of their fearsome reputation and their dominance over the town. With nerves of steel and a quick wit, Deimus concocted a daring plan to create a diversion and slip away unnoticed. As the red brands turned their attention elsewhere, he seized his chance, slipping away into the night like a shadow, his heart pounding with the thrill of his narrow escape. Returning to safety of the Stonehill Inn, Deimus breathed a sigh of relief, his mind racing with thoughts of the dangerous foes that lurked in the darkness of Phandalin. The next morning, Azareah, Deimus, and Cepheon are enjoying their breakfast while Deimus asks about the red brands he encountered the night before. Elsa, the barmaid, speaks of fear of the red brands, and they are terrorizing the town, stealing and killing on a daily basis. She also informs them that there lives a half-elf adventurer in the orchard to the west of town who might be of any help to them. And after breakfast, the group first decide to take the provisions they were transporting from Neverwinter to Barton's Provisions, which lays in the north of Phandalin. Here, they are welcomed with open arms, and are being paid gold for delivering the goods. And after going through the provisions, they asked how is business, and where they can get weapons or armor. To answer these questions, Barton also complains about the red brands, and that they are a menace in the town since a couple of months. He then gives them directions to the Lion Shield Coster, a bit more south in Phandalin, which is owned by Linene Greywind. But Linene Greywind does not sell weapons and armor to everyone. First, they need to gain her trust. And so they leave Barton's Provisions and head for the Lion Shield Coster. And after they arrived, they're being welcomed by Linene, who first does not completely trust the group, but with Cephion's flirting and flattery, she invites them to the back of the house. Here, she sells and buys various kinds of armor and weapons. With even more flattery, they convince Linene to buy their used weapons they recovered from fighting the goblins, even though these items are kind of worthless. They trade for a while, and also here Linene informs the group about the red brands and how much of a menace they are. But she also informs them that the townmaster is too scared to do anything about it. This frustrates Cepheon a lot, and he wants to do something about it. Linene then tells them that there is somebody who does want to fight the red brands, but definitely not alone. And this is none other than the local carpenter, Inverna Nightbreeze. When they leave the Lion Shield Coaster in the afternoon with better armor and more gold, they decided to split up. Cepheon will confront the Townmaster at the Townmaster Hall. Deimus will visit the half-elf at the orchard, and Azareah will talk to Inverna Nightbreeze about the Red Brands. So first, upon entering the hall, Cepheon was met with the sight of a nervous and apprehensive Townmaster, whose feeble attempts at maintaining order in the face of Red Brand's tyranny were all too apparent. In a fit of righteous anger, Cepheon confronted Harbin, demanding to know why he turned a blind eye to the menace that threatened the town, and Harbin's feeble excuses only served to stoke the flames of Cepheon's fury until he could not bear it any longer. In a moment of rashness, Cepheon seized Harbin by the collar, his frustration boiling over as he pushed the trembling Townmaster against the wall. But before the situation could escalate further, Sildar Hallwinter intervened, his authoritative presence quelling the tension in the room. Taking Cepheon aside, Sildar revealed the truth about Harbin. A man paralyzed by fear, ill-suited for the responsibilities of his position. With a heavy heart, Sildar implored Cepheon and his companions for their aid in a far greater quest, the rescue of Gundren and the discovery of Gregma Castle. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Deimus heads to the west of Phandalin and visits Adermoth Orchard. Here he is welcomed by a half-elf named Darren Adermoth. Darren is a member of the Order of the Gauntlet, a devout and vigilant group that seeks to protect others from the depredations of evildoers. The Order is always vigilant, ready to smite evil, enforce justice, and enact retribution against any who try to subjugate or harm others. Though he is no longer active in the Order, he keeps an eye on happenings around Phandalin. Darren is concerned about the Red Brands, and he would like to see a group of adventurers teach the ruffians a lesson. He tells Deimus that it's time someone took a stand against the Red Brands' leader, Glastaff. Darren knows the Red Brands hang around the sleeping giant Tab House. He can also inform Deimus that the main Red Brand safe house lies underneath Tresender Manor, which is a ruin to the east edge of town. After sharing this information, Darren also informs Deimus that he has heard stories from prospectors in the hills northeast of Phandalin that someone is digging around in the ruins known as Old Owl Well. More disturbingly, several prospectors have reported being chased from the area by the undead. He asked Deimus to visit the ruins, a couple of days march northeast of Phandalin, and find out who's there and what they're up to. Darren knows that the ruins are an old watchtower of an ancient magical empire, and he worries that dangerous magic might be dormant here. While Cepheon was at the Townmaster Hall and Deimus was at the orchard, Azareah went to give the local carpenter a visit. Inverna Nightbreeze normally does not trust strangers, doesn't even want to talk to them. But with Azareah being a fellow elf, this intrigues Inverna into starting a conversation with Azareah. Especially when Azareah shares that they want to do something about the Red Brands in town, Inverna is all ears and even wants to join their fight against them. And so, Azareah managed to convince Inverna to join the group in the fight against the Red Brands. And later that evening, Azareah, Cepheon, and Deimus are back at the Stonehill Inn, and they are there to share their stories with each other and what they've learned so far. Their final decision is to head out to Tresender Manor later that night to surprise the Red Brands there and get rid of them once and for all. And so far, Chapter 2. I hope to see you all for Chapter 3. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like. Bye bye.